ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। नमस्कार दोस्तों, I will explain Brahma Vidya or knowledge of the ultimate reality, secrets of the percepts and the practice of self knowledge. This article I have taken from a booklet of Swami Sat Nanendra Saraswati. He was a great Jivan Mukta born in Karnataka state, and he was a great Advaitic Vedantist. So I will start the video. What is the greatness of Brahma Vidya? In these times, when the knowledge about the physical sciences has grown stupendously, it has become difficult for the people to show respect towards the philosophical science of Brahma Vidya, that is, knowledge of the ultimate reality called in Vedantic parlance Brahma. Atma Vidya, self self knowledge. Now, rockets which land on the moon also have been produced, but it has become extremely difficult to attain a state of our mind which can reach out to the world of the self or Atma. Really speaking, even in the olden times, Brahma Vidya was not within the reach of everyone. Even in those times, someone person among thousands of people was attempting to gain this knowledge of Brahma. Even among those who were attempting thus, some one individual could recognize this reality of Brahma as it was. In order to indicate that it was difficult to obtain this knowledge in the olden times, there was in vogue a household saying, "What? Do you think it to be Brahma Vidya?" This sentence was used by the common people to mean, is that task so difficult as Brahma Vidya? In truth, Brahma Vidya is not only a spiritual science par excellence but also a skillful, profound art. This opinion is implicit in the above saying of the ancient times. In these present times, when the interest and attention of the educated masses is increasingly directed towards the natural physical sciences, the number of people who dabble in Vedanta, which is truly the science of the ultimate reality, and query in the manner what is meant by Brahma Vidya and what does it teach us, is steadily decreasing in the face of the predominant materialistic attitude and approach that the physical sciences advocate and encourage. Brahmadevanam Prathmaha Sambhuva Visvasya Karta Bhuvasya Gopata Sa Brahma Vidya Suravidya Pratishthanam Athvayah Jayase Putraya Praha. Mundaka Upanishad. This is a shloka from Mundaka Upanishad. Brahma is the firstborn earlier than all the other gods or deities. He is the creator and protector of the universe. He taught Brahma Vidya, which is the substrate for all knowledge, to his eldest son Atharva. Brahma Vidya is that knowledge which the omnipotent Hiranyagarbha, who was the primogenitor, Mula Purusha of the deities of gods, taught his beloved son for the latter's spiritual prosperity and well-being. This knowledge is the final goal of all empirical knowledges. It was the belief of our ancient sages or rishis that if any knowledge was to be fit for the nomenclature of Vidya, it should somehow indirectly at least lead one to Brahma Vidya, that is, the knowledge par excellence of the ultimate reality of Brahma or Atma. Therefore, in the olden times, the authors of various scientific treatises had to depict as to how the scientific treatise they had formulated or written was a means for attaining Brahma Vidya. If it was not done, the honorable nomenclature of a Shastra, that is scientific treatise, was not earned by it. For example, if it is asked, what is the benefit accruing from the science of mathematics? The scholars were arguing in the manner those who do not possess the knowledge of that science cannot gain the knowledge of the positions of the planets and stars, as also the dimensions and the forms of the brick-laid sacrificial altar which are to be prepared in various sacrifices. By the practice of the religious rites or rituals of yajna, that is sacrifices, etc., alone, one gets purity of the mind or heart. By that purity of the heart or mind, one gains the knowledge of the reality. Thus, because it is indirectly a cause for moksha, that is liberation, one should necessarily learn the science of mathematics. There is no doubt whatsoever about the fact that if the ancient sages were to be present in these modern times, they would have had invariably argued in the manner. If the physical sciences too are properly utilized, they would serve as subservient means leading to or culminating in Brahma Vidya. Even today, Brahma Vidya possesses such a great value and profound benefit or utility. Answers to the burning question, what are the benefits accruing from Brahma Vidya, can be had from some sentences of the Upanishads. Brahm, Brahma Vidya Panoti Param, Tetriopanishad. It means to one who cognizes Brahma, the ultimate reality, accrues that fruit of Parampurushartha, that is the unrivaled or unparalleled supreme goal which is human being can possibly attain. In this sentence, the fruit of Brahma Vidya is stated in a commonplace manner. What is meant by Param Purushartha, that is the prime purpose or goal of human existence or life, is not explicitly explained or elucidated. Yada sarve parmuchyante kamaye हृदयी शरीर था अथा मर्थो मृतो भावत्या ब्रह्मा समासनुते Kathopanishad. It means when all the desires which are lurking in a person's heart get released or liberated, then the mortal man becomes immortal. He will attain Brahma, the ultimate reality, here itself, while living in this body. That is, in this very life or birth. If one listens to this scriptural sentence about the fruit, one gets surprised as well as curious to boot. Is it possible to count and say that a person possesses so many desires in his mind or heart? Can it even be believed that those desires, all of them without exception, will leave us and relieve us? The one thing that is certainly known to all of us is that it cannot be asserted that a particular man has so many desires, let alone their becoming quiescent or coming to an end. As soon as one desire gets fulfilled, 10 other desires raise their heads invariably. Such being the case, to assert that all the desires become non-existence is merely to declare a false pronouncement and to make a tall claim indeed. Further, who can say that even one person who claims in the manner, "I do not possess any desire whatsoever, all my desires have been fulfilled," is met in this whole universe? Let it be to say that man becomes immortal. What sort of a daring, fearless statement it is! In the Amar Kosa, that is the ancient Sanskrit lexicon for the word Manushya, which generally means a human being, the synonym is Marthya, meaning one who is mortal and hence ends up in death. Can the statement immortal becomes immortal ever be accepted? Now, whoever that was famous in the past, is he alive? Even the rishi or sage who uttered the sentence, "Immortal will become immortal," is he alive? Is the person who uttered this sentence a madman, or was he pronouncing such a sentence without proper understanding of its true meaning? Or are we who believe in such bizarre, uncommon statements ourselves madmen? Another statement of Vedantins which give rise to our curiosity, nay amusement, is here itself: a realized soul, Jnani attains Brahma, that is the ultimate reality. There are religions which describe colorfully in the manner people with merits punya after death go to such and such a celestial region. But those who wish to ascertain whether this statement is true or not will have to die first, because of the reason that there is not a single person who after death has returned to this world to report about his posthumous experiences. It is not possible to say whether the meaning of that scriptural sentence is true or not. But in this particular scriptural statement, it has been affirmed that here itself he will attain Brahma. How is it at all possible to attain this ultimate reality of Brahma, who is said to be the very substratum of all creation? Is there any person at all who has attained Brahma while being in this life? Is it, is it possible to know or cognize Brahma, get rid of all desires and become one with Brahma here itself in this life? If all this is possible and true, then we should necessarily, without fail and loss of much valuable time, make a sincere effort to attain the Brahmahood through this Brahma Vidya, self-knowledge or self-realization. If, however, it is untrue and improbable, then one is justified in blaring out that all this is mere mockery and in denouncing it downright. See, now listen to yet another scriptural statement about the fruits accruing from self knowledge. भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथि सच्चिदान्ते सर्वमस्याव्यचा केष्यन्ते चास्यया कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परवरे. This is from Mundaka Upanishad, meaning if that all pervading supreme self, that is Paramatman, is cognized or realized, then the note of the heart will be loosened and all the doubts will get destroyed. His deeds too will be exhausted. As much the scriptural statement, all desires disappear, is a mere fancy or an unnatural conjecture, so much is the scriptural statement that a man's doubts in their totality get dissolved, also a mere fancy or a wild conjecture. Among human beings, there are many intelligent people. The knowledge that they have amassed over the ages is of the magnitude of many mountains. But just as it is in the experience of every one of us that even as one desire gets fulfilled, many new desires arise in us. In the same way, it is a matter which is in the experience of every one of us that even as one doubt is solved, 10 new doubts raise their heads. It being so, what sort of a statement, nay exaggeration, is to say that by means of the Brahmavidya, self-knowledge, all the doubts get dissolved at once? Let alone this objection too. Is it possible for all the actions, karmas, to get exhausted or destroyed? The actions, whether good or bad, that man performs in this very lifespan are themselves innumerable. Then who has kept an account or track of the actions that he or she has performed in the past endless lives? If it is compared to these total number of accumulated actions, those actions which are exhausted owing to the person having experienced their fruits are so small in number. Just as a person who takes loans brings day to day fresh loans on compound interest and spends them away by enjoying them, and thereby his loan amount remains permanently unpaid only. In the same manner, among the totality of our actions, sanchita karma, however much we exhaust our actions by enjoying their fruits, the number of those actions which we have not exhausted remain innumerable indeed. Can there be any person at all then who can say confidently in the manner, I have no actions at all which remain to be experienced and exhausted? So far we have deliberated upon only those doubts that may arise in the minds of those people who are ardent believers in the scriptures and have religious faith in the existence of God, astikas. It is certain that especially for those people who are immensely exposed to the Western ways of living, who are science oriented in their outlook and are rational and thereby non believers, these scriptural sentences stipulating certain otherworldly and posthumous fruits, Lokantra and Janmantra flaws, will seem to be ridiculous indeed. Even in the olden times, the followers of the materialistic school of philosophy called Charvakas and non-believers Nastikas had raised such objections invariably against Vedanta. Whoever the scholar might have been that had formulated and founded the doctrines of the Charvaka philosophy, he is Brihaspati. In these days of stupendously advanced science and technology, there may be scores of such Brahaspatis, modern scholars who can outbeat and overwhelm the old Brahaspatis. Our present day youths are themselves forwarding before us all the arguments and disputations of such modern scholars. If Vedanta philosophical science is to be deservedly called a universally acceptable philosophical science, darsana, then it would become very essential to give a fitting and satisfactory reply to all of those objections or doubts raised by them in the present context. The mental makeup or the temperament of those people who do not have belief or faith in Vedanta may be of different kinds. Among them, some are skeptics, that is, people who think that it is not possible for anyone to get a scene of certainty or conviction of the type here and now the ultimate truth is determined. In Greece, in about 300 BC, one Paro of Alice was the founder of this school of thought. So the Westerners believe it is said that he had first of all propounded the teaching that neither the sensuous nor the mental knowledge deserve to be believed nor they were trustworthy. Nowadays, in the European countries, several schools of skepticism have come and gone. In recent times, David Hume of Scotland has propounded another theory of skepticism in the manner, the essential nature of being, which goes by the nomenclature of I, cannot be perceived, however much we may search for it. The cause effect categories are untrue or false. All that we know are the ideations or thoughts alone which are produced by our senses. The theory of perception, which propounds that only that much knowledge which is perceptible to our senses is certain, that too relatively real, can be called positivism. This theory was propounded and popularized by a French thinker called Auguste Comte. It is learnt. People who endorse this theory are not sparse in our country, India. There are many people who call themselves humanitists, and this theory of humanism may be defined as that which is needed by human beings, particularly those aspects only which are needed for the betterment and progress of the human race in general, should be deliberated upon. The opinion of the followers of this doctrine is that the desire to know as to how best we should behave so much is to produce exemplary man in the future is very important. Individuals are not so very important. These people who are those who refute phenomena like gods or deities, heaven and hell, etc. Let alone the topic of these thinkers or philosophers. Now, there are many people who believe in the theory of evolution among the followers of the various empirical or physical sciences of the present times. There is no scope of these people having or getting any belief whatsoever in the theories, doctrines, or dogmas propounded by the various schools of philosophy or religions. Besides the number of people who belong to political and ideological groups with large membership and who keep on finding answers in a very parochial and limited fashion to questions like keeping the political matters and problems of our nation in view predominantly for the time being. What should we do so that our country prospers and develops? And who formulate enchanting manifestos to enlist the membership of scores of people is dis con- disconcertingly increasing, and the quarrel among these groups seem to be never ending. These people cannot by any stretch of imagination even conceive of an ultimate reality as the substrate for this universe, let alone deliberate upon such lofty doctrines. Thus, even in these times of highly advanced technology and science, when there exist many kinds of school of skeptics and non-believers who are extremely materialistic in their outlook, by God's benign grace, it is found that side by side there exist many people all over the world who believe in the teachings of the spiritual science of Vedanta, and that is happy agree. These people show an unflinching faith in the Gita statement. I will uh, give only the English translation. Gita, which means there is a slok, but I just give the meaning, which means one who is an ignorant person and who does not have belief or faith in the scriptural teachings and is thereby a skeptic gets doomed without attaining the ultimate purport or goal of all human existence. The fact that even in these modern times one can preach the Vedantic truth so that they are reckoned or recognized by all people can be comprehended by us from the life history of Swami Vivekananda, who toured many Western countries and overwhelmed great scholars and thinkers of the West by his enlightening and enthralling lectures. In the next chapter, we will make an attempt to delineate the method of comprehending the purport of the scriptural statements, stimulating certain fruits which were mentioned here in this chapter. Now, I end this video because there will be many videos on this topic, so let us be brief and elaborate. So thank you, thank you. God bless you.